Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today is the day that I've decided to make what they call the hardest video you ever have to make here on YouTube. And you guys know on this channel I've had to make several really hard videos that I never thought I would ever have to make, but this one is obviously going to be the worst and the hardest to make. And that is to let you guys know that Tony did pass away. My name is Jenny, and normally my husband Tony and I make content about our interabled life. He was a wheelchair user, and we just made content here on YouTube to kind of contribute to the interabled community and, provide resources, awareness, things like that. And we just had a lot of fun with it. So he has recently passed away after a really long health battle. And if you are new, I'll go ahead and just share a very brief synopsis of the timeline of what has happened. And then most of this video, I'm gonna focus in on those last 5 days or so before he passed away. So before I even start with the story and what happened, I just wanna say a sincere thank you so much to all of you guys for your thoughts and prayers and support that you have shown my family this past year. I have continued to be blown away at the amount of messages I receive on Instagram. If you guys have been following me over there at Jenny Teal, you already know what has happened. I've shared a little bit over there, and I am so grateful truly for everything you guys did to support us just from near and far. I never felt alone in this journey. I always felt like I had so many people cheering us on. Tony always felt like he had so many people cheering him on. And I know you guys, the support and the love that you showed us extended his life, because he just took it on. He took on that energy and that love and that support. And I know it fueled him to continue going forward. And he loved giving you guys updates as he went along in his medical journey. And it gave him something else to have purpose and meaning. And he always wanted to try to just help one person by sharing his story. So that was always so important to him. So thank you for just being there for us. Thank you for being on the other side of the camera. Thank you for the comments and especially the prayers, because we sure did need those prayers. So thank you so, so much. So having said all that, obviously this did not go the way that I thought it was gonna go. It didn't go the way that Tony thought it was gonna go. Tony already had muscular dystrophy. That was something that he's had ever since I met him. So we met about 12 years ago. He was disabled, but overall he was healthy and should have had a long, normal lifespan because the type of muscular dystrophy that he has, it's called FSHD, and it doesn't really shorten lifespan. It doesn't affect heart or lungs. And people with FSHD typically live average lives. It wasn't anything that we saw as life-limiting. It was just something that he had to make some adjustments with and deal with. But then about 18 months before he passed away, some other symptoms started to come up, and we just didn't know what was going on with Tony. And we ended up on a long road of trying to look for answers, search for answers. And his symptoms were primarily neurological, but we just don't know. We don't have an overall diagnosis for him, and that was the problem. So one morning he woke up with neurological symptoms that mimicked a stroke, and I called 911, and they took him to the ER and they ruled out stroke, but it sent them on this chase to find out, okay, well, if it's not that, then what is it? And it is such a blur now. While we were going through it, I had kept notes on everything, and I had notebooks full of, what this doctor said and that doctor said and what this test came back. I'm not going to go into all that right now. I've actually already made videos like that. So if you really want more of the medical details, you can go back in our channel and watch a couple of videos and get updated on that. I'm not in the headspace to go all the way back into the medical details of that right now. But I will say that many, many tests were done on Tony, many exploratory surgeries, countless doctors, 4 different hospitals, an evaluation by the Mayo Clinic, all to come back with we don't know what's wrong with him. They officially called it a zebra case. So it's some type of rare disease that we don't know a name for. And it caused symptoms such as low blood pressure, hypothermia, low blood sugar, basically his vitals. He could not sustain his vitals properly. And with all the medicines he was on to try to keep everything stable, it became this tightrope that we walked on every day just to keep him alive, especially at night. And it was very scary. So this is, from my perspective as a caregiver, caring for him for those 18 months, whenever he wasn't in the hospital, my biggest fear every day was that he was going to pass away. So every time I tried to fall asleep, I was afraid. I checked him constantly in the middle of the night. Sometimes I'd have to give emergency meds throughout the night. Like if you've ever been a caregiver for someone who's medically complex, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You almost become an expert in them. And I have no medical training whatsoever, and I would never be able to care for any other patients, but I could care for Tony. But being so intimately involved in his care and seeing how bad things were getting, I started to feel very much over my head. And I started to really panic. And I know that I developed really bad anxiety around that time. And I know that I ended up going into a depression. And he needs like 10 people taking care of him. And he's got one person who is burnt out and anxious and depressed and feels like she's in over her head. So at that point, we brought in some more people to help us. We have our wonderful neighbor, Matt, who has been a godsend, and he would ride over on his bike and just help me. And he's in the medical field, which was really, really helpful. And we also had just other people step in. We had home health nurses come and just do little things here and there for Tony. And we had a couple of people we could call, okay, when it got really bad. But the bottom line is, no matter what we did and however many specialists we saw, he was not getting better. The only thing we were told to do is just continue managing symptoms. And you just get to a point where you're watching a person decline. And he never seemed to really get better. And when the decision was made for him to go on hospice, it was first made by his team of doctors and myself in a conference room the spring before he died. But he was given the opportunity once he got to the hospice center to do 100 days of skilled nursing. And that's when we started to really feel hope again, because insurance had already cut him off from all of his therapy because he wasn't improving. That was really frustrating. And it just seemed like overall, nobody really cared in the health system if he got better or not. It was all just about, well, it's time to kick him out of here, kick him out of this facility because he's not improving and he's not going to qualify for any more treatments. So that was just a big worry for me always, is I need to constantly advocate and fight for him to get more care and more treatment. It was like a full-time job. So I'm trying to be at home, manage the kids, manage the house, produce some sort of income. Like I wanted to try to make YouTube videos at that time. And that was at one point a full-time income for me. Tony and I both took care of that and took care of the family. When he stopped working, I also stopped working because I was caring for him all the time and his life was at stake. So I'm not gonna step away and try to do all these other things. But at the same time, you know, we still have to keep something moving in a certain direction. He ended up going on long-term disability. And so that's how we managed to just barely stay afloat. And it was really, really scary. It was an extreme budget. But I'm stressing over that. I'm trying to learn how to pay the bills because he always paid the bills and I didn't even know any of the passwords. So I was trying to learn how to pay the bills. I was trying to advocate for him. I was caring for him when he was home and trying to keep him alive. And then I was keeping up with the 3 kids and trying to make sure that everybody's okay. And that was the dark period. That was the period where I felt like completely overwhelmed and really scared. And like some feelings of despair. When he went in the hospice facility and was given the chance for 100 days of skilled nursing, for me, it was actually my first feelings of hope, renewal. It was like, okay, Tony's gonna go for 100 days. This is how my mind works and the place I was at that time. Tony's gonna go in there for 100 days. He's gonna be able to work on getting stronger. He's gonna go to therapy. I'm gonna take those 100 days and get back on my feet, take care of the children. Noelle was going off to college, so I needed to get her set up at the dorm. She wanted me to help decorate the dorm, so I wanted to go do that with her. Nathan needed his driver's license, so I wanted to go get that with him. I needed to get Alex set up in kindergarten. I ended up registering Alex for kindergarten and Tony for skilled nursing on the same day. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna take this 100 days to build a strong foundation here at the house with the kids, make sure everybody's okay, make sure they know they have a parent who is here and okay and not depressed, and just kind of fortify at the house while Tony strengthens himself with this therapy. I was even told that one of the ladies from our church was a therapist at this place, and she was going to try to make sure and get Tony so that she could work really hard with him and get him in a good spot. And that actually did happen. And Tony had wonderful therapists at the facility. Therapists who were bending over backwards to try to get his body to respond to treatment, get him to get better, get stronger. They prayed with him. They read the Bible to him. They loved him. And I did my part at the house, and I really did take that time to try to make sure the kids were okay, reconnect. I made a couple of YouTube videos during that time as well, just to try to get us back on track. The problem is that Tony wasn't responding to that therapy. And about 2 months into it, I could tell that something was changing in him. And he was kind of shifting into like more days of pain. And before they would have to turn him like every 2 hours. And then all of a sudden now they're having to turn him every 45 minutes. And he was just not going in a good direction. And by this point, he can't move anything in his body. He can't even move his hands at all at this point. He's having trouble swallowing. He can't sit up at all. Their goal was to try to get him to sit up at a 45-degree angle using the hospital bed. He couldn't do that. At this point, the muscular dystrophy started to take over. So Tony did not pass away primarily of muscular dystrophy. He passed away from this other illness that was attacking his vitals and making him unable to maintain his vitals. But he still did have muscular dystrophy, and muscular dystrophy, it's like stress and disease and all kinds of other things that attack the body will make that progress way faster. So the muscular dystrophy started rapidly progressing. And that's when his pulmonologist came and spoke with me and said, this isn't going in a good direction. How far do you want to go with invasive treatments to try to help him? And I said, however far he wants to go. Like, Tony's in the driver's seat. He has full cognition. He knows exactly what's going on. And as far as he wants to go, I will support him. And Tony was tired. Tony was tired. He didn't want to do that anymore. He didn't want any more surgeries. He didn't want any more procedures. So he asked to go on hospice, and so many things were happening, like our fridge broke and we lost all the food in the fridge. So that was really frustrating. I had to go try to buy a new refrigerator. And then we had a big storm and a flood, and the roof started leaking. So I've got like bins and buckets underneath, and I'm calling a roofer, and I can barely get the roofer to come because there's flooding all over where I live and they can't get through. And so we have to wait for the flooding to go down. Meanwhile, my office is just, the roof is leaking in my office, and I'm trying to protect all of my computers and equipment and get it out the way. So that was stressful. And then we had a few other financial related stresses happen that week, and they were just not fun surprises. And then on top of that, Alex got viral bronchitis. He was really sick, and so we were in the ER for like a couple of those days. So I couldn't even bring Alex to see Tony the week before because I didn't want to get him sick or anybody else at the facility sick. So we were kind of staying away a little bit the first part of that week before he died. But then Alex started to get better like toward the end of the week, and it was about to be Halloween. We did like a little thing with my friends, like a little local event. He had a really good time. So we did that night, so we didn't head over to the facility. But the next night was Halloween. And I took Alex trick-or-treating, and we trick-or-treated with friends. It was a really good time. He had a great night. Then I said, well, you know, let's go see Daddy. You know, now that you're not sick anymore, let's go show him what you got in your pumpkin, you know, your trick-or-treat. And I took him over to the facility on Halloween, and that ended up being the last time he ever got to see his dad. So I didn't know it, obviously, at the time, but I am so glad I brought him, because I almost didn't. It was kind of late. It was like 8 p.m. and I, you know, didn't necessarily have to go bring him on Halloween, but the facility is like less than 5 minutes away from my house. And I just thought, why not? You know, like, I try to include Tony in every single thing I can. Like, while he was living there for a couple months, I tried to, like, we did birthday parties in his room. We just brought to Tony's room and tried to like make it as fun and cheerful as possible, and so that he didn't miss out on everything. So this was no exception. I thought, let's go show Daddy your costume and your bucket, and we hung out there for probably just an hour. He seemed fine. He was breathing fine. He was laughing with Alex. He was talking with me. He said, yeah, I had a good day pain-wise. Everything's good. My medicines kicked in. They worked. I didn't need to be turned as much. And overall, it was a really good day for him. So I was very glad and wanted to go the next day, but I had an emergency, which was another one of the bad things that happened before he died. Was our front door also broke. The lock was so broken on the front door that I couldn't even close it. So I called one of my friends, and her husband said, I can fix the door. You know, if you go get a door, I'll come over tomorrow morning and fix the door for you. So I was very grateful, and went ahead, and Noelle and I went out to Mississippi and bought a door and brought it back home. And then Jake came over the next morning, which was Sunday morning, and he installed the new door. But I guess it was just a little more complicated than we thought, so that kind of took all day. And then I called Tony around dinner time. So we talked for, I don't know, like 40 minutes or so. He talked to Alex. He said goodnight to Alex. And then that was it. And I said, all right, well, I'll see you, because this was Sunday night. I said, I'll see you tomorrow after my doctor's appointment. I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. And then I will come over and we can hang out. Because, I mean, most of the time, you know, in this little time period that I'm talking about, like, that's what I did during the day. So I would maybe get some stuff done in the morning. I would go hang out with him during the day. A lot of times we would eat lunch together, and then I would go off, run errands, or come home and wait for the kids to get off the bus. I told him I would come after my doctor's appointment. I had asked him if he wanted me to bring him a sandwich, and he said no. He was still doing the scrambled eggs. He was happy with that. So I woke up Monday morning. I went to go get Alex on the bus, but before I even got him on the bus, I got a phone call from the facility. And it was from Brittany, who was the sweetest person in the whole world, and the one who fought to get him the skilled nursing therapy, and the one who first brought him the bag of Arby's sandwiches when he first got there to make him happy. And she's been great. But she called, and I could tell by the tone in her voice that it was not good news. She told me he's okay, but he doesn't sound good this morning. And I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something wrong with his voice and his breathing. And I don't want to, you know, assume what's happening, but he might be transitioning. So I just kind of took a deep breath, said, Alex, come on, babe, let's go. I'm gonna get you on the bus. And I tried to just, you know, have a straight face and not cry and not be scared. And I said a prayer. Please bless Alex, because I don't know what he's gonna come home to today, what kind of news, and I'm scared. So I put him on the bus and I went straight over to the facility. She said they had called hospice and they're on their way, and that I could just go in there and be with him. And since he's passed away, I've often thought like how lucky I am that I had that. Not everybody gets to say goodbye. I am blessed, because I did get to say goodbye, and I did get to hold his hand. And he could not speak to me anymore. He only was able to speak to me probably the first hour, and then he stopped being able to talk. But he could hear me. he could hear me. So as he was getting closer to passing away and we could see that he was going in that direction, I had started playing his John Mayer music, which is his favorite music, and it always would calm him. So right when he started to pass away is when the John Mayer song XO started playing. And hearing that song as he was transitioning, if you look up the lyrics, I cannot believe that that song is what played as he passed away, because Tony always would send me songs when we were dating and falling in love. He would send me a song for everything we were going through. It was just kind of his thing. And we did some long distance dating in the beginning, and he always had a song for everything. And the lyrics were always perfect for whatever we were going through. And this song, XO by John Mayer, it's a remake, but the one sung by John Mayer is no exception. It's literally like a song about him leaving me, but then also loving me. And it's so hard for me to listen to because, you know, of the context in which I heard it. But that's the song I know if I need to cry, if I need to get some tears out, I know if I play that song, I will cry. However, I also feel his love through that song. And so that's why I like to listen to it, because I feel his love. But after hearing that song and after everything was done, I had been in that position of holding him and leaning over for so long that my back had almost like locked in that position. And I was just kind of in a state. I was in shock, obviously. The coroner had come to pick him up and did the honor walk down the hall. And I just bawled crying through that. But I was also shocked, like it was just a body bag on a stretcher. Like, that can't be Tony. So it was just really confusing. I was very, very shocked. So when I first got home, my parents got Alex off the bus and just took him straight to their house to spend the night. And my friends came over, which was perfect. And they just brought a big box of Kleenex, a bottle of wine, and a bunch of chocolate. And that was it. And they just came over, took over the living room, and that was exactly what I needed to get through. And that got me through the first night. Noelle had come back from college, so she slept in my bed the next couple nights. And then my parents brought Alex back to the house, and I had to tell him. And honestly, like, apart from Tony's death, that was the worst moment of my life, was having to tell Alex that his dad went to heaven. After that, it was just a blur of trying to plan funeral services, make preparations. And then of course the holidays came, and it was just like go, 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 like get ready for Thanksgiving and then get ready for Christmas. And I haven't truly felt like I've re-entered into my life until just recently. I finally just really started to feel like a person again. And just, you know, I'm still grieving and crying every day, but it's like I can also meet a friend for coffee. I can still do normal things. It's just I'm also grieving. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So Tony passed away peacefully on November 4th, and now it's time for me to find out what's next for me and how to carry the love that I still have for him with me into my next chapter. And I know there will be more for me. I just don't know what it looks like. But I want to say just thank you again for supporting us and loving us through this hard story. Tony loved you guys. And if you're going through hard things in your life right now, if you're going through trials or struggles or anything that just feels like the wall that you can't get past, Tony is cheering you on too, okay? So just thank you for the years that you've allowed us to share our story, share our love. And I'm going to carry his love in my heart as I move forward in my next chapter. And I'll see you guys next time.